What's up, y'all? Happy Halloween. Surprise, it's me under here. This is just a squid hat. Surprise, surprise. And that is the tune called The Haunted House. I figured that was an appropriate one for this time of year. Nearly Halloween, anyway. Great old jig, and it seems to be really popular in the Nashville area, so I thought it might be a fun one to break down. Let's start with the basic melody, as usual. This tune's in the key of G major, but of course we're playing on a D flute or D whistle, whatever you got. Does have a pickup note, keep that in mind here. D pickup note, so starting with that, here we go. It's the first phrase there, first section. Then we'll carry on from there with the second bit here, and we'll come back and put it all together so we'll get a whole piece locked down. But here's the second section. Right? That's the whole bit. We'll get the whole thing all together, nice and slow still. We're not going to worry about tempo or ornaments or any of that. We'll come back to that. But A part here, first half. Nice and easy. Cool. You'll notice I took a breath in there. If you need to do so as well, find a good spot and find a place where you might have to delete a note to fit that breath in there once we're getting up tempo. Just, be aware of that and try and take a breath when you want to rather than when you need to. Anyway, that whole thing would repeat because this is an AABB kind of a tune. So that's the whole A part. Got that locked down. Make sure you get that melody comfortably under your fingers, then we'll carry on here with the B part. It does jump up into the second octave as you might expect, but it's got kind of a narrow range, which is one of the interesting things about this tune and one of the things we get to experiment with in the ornaments and variations part. But here we go with the B part, first half anyway, first half of the B part. So that's the first half, and sort of like the A part, the first half is a repeat. Now where it gets interesting is that the second time through the second part of this is a repeat of the A part. So we got a little bit of a copy and paste ahead of us, which is nice, saves a bit of time. So let's do the second half of the B part here, nice and slow. Same ending as we had before, right? So hopefully we've already got that. Now the second time through the B part is where we repeat the ending of the A part. So I'll play the whole second time through all as one so you kind of get the idea of how that works. So here we go. So sort of just reassembling pieces of this thing. So hopefully that makes sense. We're going to run the whole tune all the way through. Nice and slow, not a lot of ornamentation, right? Just nice and basic, simple stuff. AABB, right? So you get one good shot through it and, see how we do. Okay? 2, 3, 4. far so good, hopefully. You'll notice I spent a bit of time on an extra high D there because I forgot where I was, but hopefully you got the idea, and some little note substitution here and there didn't throw you off too badly. All of which dovetails rather nicely, I would say, into the discussion on ornaments and variations, right? So, a lot of possibilities for rolls. We've got some good long-held quarter notes, dotted quarters. Hopefully you're starting to pick up that those are opportunities for some ornamentation there. So here's a couple of things that I might throw in here on the beginning of the A part. So, a couple of a quick roll there, a really definitive. Right, really good spot for one, I would say. One thing to point out, this tune is written by a fellow called Vincent Broderick, who's a fantastic flute player, has written some great tunes that are extremely well suited to flute and whistle. As an aside, might be worth looking up his collection, which I will link down below. There's a link to that. Great book, written some fantastic tunes, all of which fit really well. So, getting back to the point of the ornaments here, he's got some good spots for these kind of baked into these tunes, because he's a flute player as well. So, slide on that B, works really well. When you get to that second octave D, there's a lot of them in a row there, so we've got some opportunities to make it a little bit interesting. A simple cut on there works. You could do a crayon as well, if you wanted to get adventurous, but some interesting ways to give it one or two of those notes a bit of character. And it might not always be the same ones every time. You might find the accent varies a little bit depending on who's around you in this, stereotypical theoretical session environment. Yeah, then right back into another roll there. Anytime you've got a good landing spot like that G, where it's being held out naturally, good spot for a roll, and especially in a jig, like, because it's got that kind of D groove kind of baked right in. So. Now that second octave G, that is now the first time we've really hit that highest spot, and I've used this phrase countless times in these videos, highest note in the phrase. And this tune in particular, it doesn't come up very often, so it's a very narrow range. I mentioned that when we were kind of breaking down the basic melody. So when we get there, I'm definitely going to accent that. So, and I'm doing that with two things. I'm doing a tonguing interruption before I get there, and then a good sharp cut as I make that transition from the second octave D to the G. And then tonguing to separate those other three notes as we descend the phrase, because I really want that high G to be the standout part. Well, really hitting that note nice and clean, because again, it's the first time we've hit that spot, and it's sort of a key part of the tune. Then when we come around to the B part, we're getting up into that second octave a bit more, starting with that second octave E. So, right, so you've got a good roll opportunity on that first one. And then I would cut again to separate those second, the two that are together in the second part of that phrase. Could cut twice if you really wanted to, I suppose, but I would say once is good enough just to give it a good bit of punch before we come around to that second phrase, which is basically the same as that the phrase that we had in the A part, with the same problem that we have to find a way to make those second octave Ds interesting. Nice cut there works. You could do the crayon as well. We can reuse some of these same concepts, I think, but some way to make that interesting. And then we come back to that highest note in the phrase, which again, we're never really pushing the envelope on this tune, which is, I think, one of the things that works so well. It's a very narrow range, and when we get to that high G, we really want to sell it and make it an interesting time when we hit that note. really cutting that to make that that note stand out. Then when we come back around, we want to make the lower part of this, the descending part, interesting as well. So you can give that long G a roll, same as we did in the A part, but to make it a little bit more distinct and a little bit different on the B part, I like to give it that kind of sticking the landing, bouncy grace note where I land the note before that. So and really just kind of stick the landing, right? And then again, we've got the opportunity for the highest note in the phrase. So reusing some of those concepts, but I like to make sure that the fact that we've copied and pasted the A part, it's not exactly the same, right? It's just got a little bit of thing that says this is, yes, we know what we're reusing, but it's a little bit different, and so we want to signify that. And that's how I do that, just by changing it up just a little bit. So look for those opportunities to repeat things, but just ever so slightly and intentionally change up your ornamentation for a reason. So let me know what you think of this one. If you want to deep dive this one as well, we've got that over on Patreon. More ornamentation, variation, some of the ornaments that we can do with the flute, with the keys in particular, because there's a couple of those. Again, this tune being written by a fantastic flute player tends to lend itself rather well to that instrument. So we'll break that down. Feel free to join me over there. And otherwise, guys, I will see y'all in the next one. Cheers.